Thank you again. Yay. What? You wrote that?
Yes.
Unbelievable. Yay, you. Oh. I suppose you're like me. You always like to hear how it comes out. That's the way I am with these. I always like to hear how these come out. So, this is part of a series of sermons. So, if you think I didn't deal with everything that needed to be talked about, that's true, because I'm dealing with a small part. Last time I talked about the importance of re-understanding our image of how the universe, the world we live in, works. Today I want to focus on our understanding of what it means to be a human being. And part of my contention here is that the fundamental problem in the world today is that we have an inadequate understanding of what it means to be a human being. And the new understanding is not yet clear enough for us to actually talk about. That's what I want to work on today. So I want to talk about four kinds of things: the past understandings of humanness, sort of where we got as a species. I want to lay out a new understanding of what it means to be a human being. Then I want to talk a bit about the story, or how you would give that some power so that it was actually believable. And then I want to make a real practical suggestion to this group of people. It's a bold suggestion, but hey, what the heck. The worst is you say no, so I'm okay. So where we've gotten as a human species, I thanked him for reading that poem. I wrote it, and he read it. Thanks, Tim. I can't read that poem. The human species has covered the planet. We're almost every place that you can live, we are. So there was one time when "go forth, be fruitful, and multiply" was a good command. But we did it. We went forth, we were fruitful, and we multiplied. And there's a lot of us. And not only have we covered our planet, we've been to the moon, and we've sent little spies out to who knows where, asteroids and other places. So we're everywhere. And we can't chase people out. If I don't like somebody, I can't say go away, because there's no away. Wherever you go, there's somebody there already. It used to be, if Ann and I didn't get along, then she went her way, I went mine, and we were both happy. But there's no other place. Second of all, we're globally interconnected. I can call my friend in India anytime I want, and he answers it. I'm not going along there. We've looked everywhere. We've looked at the smallest little things, little quarks, parts of quarks, parts. We've seen those things. And we've looked at the biggest things. We've looked to the stars. We've looked everywhere. If you want to see something, you can go see it. Everything, everywhere. We've seen everything. And the human species has probed the depths of consciousness. If you want to be the guru-iest guru, you can go study under. I did meditation. Well, I do meditation, and one time a Zen master came, and I was put in charge of hosting him. And he said good. He was glad to have me host him. He wanted to do meditation every morning from 4:30 to 7:30. And we would sit immobile from 4:30 to 7:30. Listen, have you ever tried that? It's very hard. But he did it. He would sit there, and I looked. And he didn't move for 3 hours. I never succeeded. I didn't get that far. So my point is, with this, the old understandings of what a human being could do, we've done all the things that anybody ever thought human beings should be able to do. We've done them. a group that I was a part of used to talk about the cutting edge of history. And sort of there's a line today, and there's the not yet and the no longer. There's the old and the not yet, and there's the now. And they had a phrase that said, God's people are the people who are out here on the cutting edge trying to figure out the new future. And the people of God are back here. The people of God and God's people. And God loves all the people of God and God's people. God's people have a real comfortable existence because there's a set of rules, understandings, most of the things are figured out. You get up in the morning, you do what to do, and you know what to do. The people of God are totally confused all the time because they are inventing the future. And that's what I want to call on people like you to do. Because, as I talked last week, we live in an emerging universe. Tomorrow is not known, period. You could read all the books here and all the books in all the bookstores, and you would never be able to define precisely what's going to happen tomorrow. Not going to happen. It's going to happen because you and you and you and you and you and my dog and the squirrel and the deer make a decision about tomorrow. That's how tomorrow happens. So that leads me to what a new understanding of what it means to be a human being. The way I want to talk about what it means to be a human being in the 21st century, I want to say it this way. The universe has spent 14 billion years creating a species that knew how to make self-conscious decisions about the future. And you're it. And now the universe is waiting. Like, what are the people going to decide? And the long sweep of history has been working to get a species that knows how to make decisions. And that's what we got. You and I know how to make decisions as a species. Maybe that's the only thing we actually can do as a species. Make decisions. Long-term, comprehensive, well thought through decisions that can be acted upon. So I want to break those down. What's it mean to really make a decision? First of all, it means in an inclusive context. That means the biggest possible context. And you and I, as a species, have invented ways to make big context decisions. We can crunch numbers. We can make monstrous spreadsheets. We've got smart people. We can analyze the future all kinds of ways. We know how to make comprehensive decisions. And we know how to envision long-term results. We can think beyond just, oh, well, I'll have a donut. I'll have a donut and then I'll have heart failure. Oh, well, then I won't have a donut. I had lunch with a friend of mine, and we picked a restaurant that we'd heard about but we hadn't been to. So we went to Red Robin. And not the most healthy restaurant. It was good, though. And so then we had a conversation at Red Robin about how do you decide what to order. And how do you decide what to order? Well, he ordered a big hamburger, and I ordered a chicken burger. And we decided you could base it on calories, of which both were losers. And I said, well, what if it was on water consumption? How much water was used to make your meal? Well, so what if McDonald's instead of, they had 450 calories, 320 gallons of water. What if that was on every menu? I don't know. We're trying to figure this out, guys. We don't know how to make decisions about something so simple as what to eat for dinner. Well, what's in the refrigerator? Well, that's one way, too. And then the third thing I want to stress is ownership of decision. You take responsibility for your decision. That's the third key part. Comprehensive context, long-range results, and then I did it. I don't care what you did. Just tell me what you did. I lived in India, a lot of you know, and I had staff. A lot of my staff were younger kids, mostly high school graduates that were trying to do village development. So I tried to teach them kind of how to function as a staff. And I had a real simple thing. Tell me what you're going to do what you said you were going to do, and tell me what you did. And in theory, they should all be the same. But if they're not the same, at least own up. But don't tell me you're going into town to the pharmacy and then go to the bar and then come home and tell me that you got lost. I mean, if that happened, more than once. So it's real simple. Tell me what you're going to do what you said, and tell me what you did. Pretty straightforward. If we all learned that, man, we'd be way down the road as a species and as a planet, and the universe would heave a sigh of relief. Now, this picture of what it means to be, if we say the human species is self-consciously about deciding the shape of the planet and the universe's future, that is a different picture than most people have about what it means to be a human being. Huh? Yeah. That's a different picture. And when we look at somebody and we say, well, right now, well, how much money do you have? Oh, well, you're better than me. You got more money. No. How do you make decisions? This requires a new story about what it means to be a human being. And part of why I had asked Tim to read that thing about Larry and Ursula is we don't have good stories about how the human species got on the planet. I mean, how did the human species get here? Well, it got here because a couple of monkeys decided they weren't going to fly around in the trees anymore, and they made some other decisions. Well, that's a better story than a spaceship crash landed in the desert one day, or you know, a big hand came out of the sky and scooped up a glump of mud. I'm sorry. Not think so. And in all of what I have to say, I know this is a problem of mine, that I sometimes say things very like this is absolutely true. And that's better than making wishy-washy statements. And if you don't agree, then come up with your own story. That is, if you don't like that story, then write another one. Or give me a clue and we'll write it together. So we need stories we need a new set of stories about the human species' role on the planet. We need stories about how the human species is connected to everything. How are we really intertwined? How are we really connected to the trees, or the squirrels, or the birds, or my dog? And then we need songs that tell those stories. I'm not a musician, but maybe we ought to write a new verse to that hymn we sang, the first hymn, that 319. This is my song, the song for all the nations. Maybe we need a new verse that says, this is my song, I'm connected to the whole planet. I keep remembering, I'm haunted by a song I sung in Bible school. I love to tell the story. Well, but then the song falls apart for me. And maybe we need to write a new verse to that song, or the last song we're going to sing, the hymn today. Somebody did write some new verses for the last hymn, but maybe we need a new one. Second, we need stories that talk about us as a species, how we work together as a species. Because it's no longer enough for each of you to be really good people. Now, I'm not trying to say be a bad person, but it's not enough to be a good person. What's required is being a good member of the human species and the planet. And we just don't have those stories. I know part of the reason I stay up and watch the basketball games late at night is it is interesting to see what it means to be a part of a team. I mean, you don't always take the first shot you get. Sometimes you give it to the other guy and hope that he makes it. And sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't. And then third, people like you and I, the cutting edge of the human race, needs to tackle some of the really thorny questions that are facing the planet today. And we need to be willing to handle the real thorny questions. How do we have enough food, water, and energy for all the people and the squirrels and the birds? That's not an easy question. I'm sure Steve and his Department of Economics, they probably know this. But if not, then we'll work on it together. Three things. We're intertwined with all. The question is being a part of a team and how we're interconnected. And we got to tackle some really thorny questions and be willing to admit that we don't know the answer, but we're working on them. Now, lastly, I'm fascinated by the concept of covenant and the importance of understanding how covenant really works. Some of you know that Elaine and I were part of a self-consciously covenanted group for 20 years. You can argue about days and weeks, but long time. And one of the things that we came to understand is that you make a covenant, then you have to hold accountability to that covenant, and then you have to have absolution about the covenant. Because covenant is different than contract. Contract, I did computer programming, and we signed a deal with somebody, and for $500,000 we'll put in this computer system, and you'll pay us. And then at the end, either the system was in or not, and they paid us or they didn't. But covenant is a different kind of thing. There's no possible way that anybody can do what's said, what you just read in that covenant. There's no possible way. I'm going to love you forever. No. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to solve social justice for the world. Well, I mean, Tim's a good guy, but Craig's a good guy, but he's not going to solve all the problems. What our group did for quite some years is, instead of reading our covenant every week, we held accountability to our covenant. And this is a bold proposal, but here goes the proposal. And accountability to a covenant is different than accountability to a contract. Accountability to a contract is yes and no, either yes or no. You said you were going to build the building. Did you build it or not? Yep. Nope. Okay, good. I pay or I don't. Accountability to a covenant is what I call symbolic accountability. And the answer is either yes and no, or no and yes. So those are the two choices when you do accountability to a covenant. It's like a marriage. Have you been faithful to your covenant of marriage? Well, either yes, but not always, or no, but I'm still here. And what if you did, instead of reading your covenant, what if you took 10 seconds to read the covenant and then went around the room and everybody just said yes and no, no and yes, yes and no, no and yes, yes and no, no and yes, yes, like that. And you see, we don't care. We don't care what Susan says. We don't, on the first hand, but it makes a difference that she takes a relationship to what she did. And sometimes you're better, and even Rita's really a good person, but she doesn't always do everything. Well, yeah, right. And then absolution. Now, one of the amazing things about the universe is really tolerant. I mean, crazy things happen in the universe. And you might even say really bad things happen in the universe. But every day, the universe heaves a sigh and moves into tomorrow with what it has. And that's the important thing about a group like you guys. Every Sunday, you come back. Or you don't, but you do. And it doesn't matter what you did last week. Whether you were really late, got all messed up, you can come back here. And it's important then to have a way to say, this group, just as it is approved and free to move into the future. Somehow you say that. So that's a covenant, accountability, and absolution. And I think that that's an important dynamic for us to learn as human beings. Because finally, all of us are in a covenanted relationship with one another. No matter how self-conscious that covenant is, that is how we relate to each other, and it's how we relate to the planet and the universe. And there is absolution. There is profound absolution. And whether you say it or not, it happens. And irrespective, I can go around that barn a lot. I'm not going to. And then the other part of the last part is find ways to celebrate. And that's why we sing. That's why we shake hands and smile at each other. Celebrate. You know, after you do accountability and absolution, it's great to be here. I'm glad to be here. And so it's important to have absolution, accountability, and celebration. So my challenge to you all is to be self-conscious about the fact that you and I are inventing the future of what it means to be a human being. And that's an important challenge. And I look forward to working together with each of you on this task, because this is what the planet needs now, a new story about what it means to be a human being. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelson. And we will now have